Hey everyone, I am getting everything set up, I hope. Hopefully you had a good day and got lots of things accomplished. I did not necessarily accomplish lots of things, but it was still a good day. So I will be thankful for that. Hopefully tonight Josie doesn't decide to go nuts. We'll find out, right? So hopefully everything is working. I think it is, so I am going to go ahead and get started with part 3. Hi Bobby, how are you today? Hey Lisa. Next time I do this, I need to actually have it set up so that way my desk and computer is set up. I have this area. I should clean my office and take a picture, but I have this area where I do video, and then my computer is on the opposite edge of the desk, so I have to turn my head to see what you guys are saying. I should probably change that next time. Hey Allison, if you all are local, we have a lovely cold front. It really is lovely that a cold front is coming, but I get barometric pressure migraines, so I took medicine a little bit ago, and I'm thankful for that working. So tonight I'm going to take it pretty easy on you, and we are going to look at 2 different kinds of stitches that are pretty simple. They're both straight. You'll be glad to know that Josie did go get a toy because, you know, Mom's talking. There's nobody in the room, so something must be up. So tonight we are going to do the cross stitch and the straight stitch. They're both really pretty basic. So the cross stitch is just the little X's. It's like a plus sign or an X, and you simply cross over and make that on your fabric. I've got yellow here, so I am going to do some stitching. I'm sure there's an embroidery police rule about which side is supposed to go on the top, but I don't typically worry too much about it. If I were doing a cross stitch piece, of course I would make sure I was doing everything in a uniform fashion, but since this is just kind of scattered stitches, it's not like you necessarily can be systematic about it, even though if I can be systematic, I try in spite of my great randomness. So Allison, that is funny. Allison said she has a fat quarter of the white version of this fabric, and I actually have more than a fat quarter. I have a bolt. if your mom owns a quilt store and you say, hey, do you have any of that new Allison Glass fabric? And she's busy, which Mom's store was always busy, she would just bring me the bolt. So I have quite a few bolts actually, but I have a bolt of the white fabric in my closet. I wish that I had a bolt of the black, but by the time I asked for that, it was gone. So with the cross stitch, you just make your little X's, and I like it because it's a little chunkier than just a plain straight stitch, and simple. Simple is always good in my book. I find that there can be 9 million, that's an exaggeration, but there's a lot of different embroidery stitches, and in fact there's, I'm sure, hundreds, but I typically will use maybe 10. I wouldn't say always 10. I just stick with what I like, and frequently, this is hand embroidery, but frequently if I'm stitching, I'm doing what is known as slow stitching. And so when I slow stitch, I do it a little differently. Of course, I'm telling you about slow stitching, so now I'm looking around my office to see if I have a little bit of slow stitching, so I can show you that after this. But I typically only use certain stitches when I slow stitch, just because I layer things a lot, so I don't necessarily want to use some of the bulkier stitches, and that is typically a factor. And the second stitch tonight that we will do is another really simple one, and it is just the little straight lines. I probably should have done that one first, but if you can look here, you've got just the little dashes basically on the fabric, and so those are a straight stitch because you just bring your needle up and then bring it back down. So pick up a needle and thread and fill that in. Slow stitching is kind of a relatively new term, not new by any means. I believe it's been around for about, the term has been around for maybe 15 or 20 years. But slow stitching, the way I would describe it is stitching not using a machine. So it is a needle and thread and no electricity. I mean, you can use electricity for your light, you could use electricity to baste your work down, or do whatever you like. There aren't really any rules, but slow stitching is just called that because it's not fast like if you're using a machine. It's slower. And the idea behind slow stitching was that you would be more mindful and self-aware while you stitched. I am not going to tell you that when I slow stitch I'm mindful and self-aware. Sometimes I am, but a lot of times I'm not, and that's okay. But I'll do a few more of these and then I'll show you kind of an example. I've got lots of examples, but I'll show you one because it's right here by my computer. So, or my, whatever, my little area. So I'm just gonna go and do a few more of the straight stitches. I think I told you before that on this fabric, when I stitched it, I used different colors some places because I didn't want it to be so heavily one color in an area. So you can most definitely do that. I basically, in this section, which is what I'm stitching right now, I basically did the same colors that were on the fabric, but there aren't rules and you don't have to do that. So just get a few more of these in. And then we will show you some slow stitching. I'm also working on next month's design and got to spend some quality time with my ripper last night, and then got the bolts of fabric with the new design in the mail and decided that I probably would just start fresh. So we'll see. I might change my mind on that, but I'll give you a sneak peek of that as well. So we've got new stuff on the way. Josie, it's okay. Josie, you're fine. Okay, so Josie has something to say, and chances are there's a package at the door. Anyway, I will quickly finish this up and then I'll give you a couple of sneak peeks and see what you think. Actually, I don't have my design I did start with, so I can show you what I do have done on next month's pattern. And then it's when it is not fabric that someone else designed. It's something I designed based on a 1930s vintage British embroidery, or British English, whichever. I love retro and older stuff, so that was a rabbit hole that I stumbled upon and liked, so I took the design and kind of changed it to my liking, and it should be fun and definitely, aw, Kim, have a nice evening. Enjoy the replay, and we will see you again. Anywho, so it's a fall bouquet for next month. It's kind of different, changing things up a little bit. So, next month, here is a not pressed. I think I told you guys I obsessively press things. So here's the design that I'm hoping you can see for next month. Actually, I should turn it upside the other way. So it will have fall colors, and I had initially stitched the sunflower with just a back stitch around the edge, and then back stitch of a darker color in the center, like on the little lines, and that did not work for me. When my 14-year-old is telling me that, Mom, there's just too much white in that background there on that sunflower, you really need to fix that, then I know that it really needs fixing. So this will be the pattern we'll work with next month, and we are figuring that one out. I am figuring that one out, and Mom is tracking down floss for me. I had to use variegated for next month, so that will be fun, and it'll be completely different, obviously, than this month. So hopefully we'll get going with some variety doing this monthly. And then I was going to show you, Maureen, that happens. I actually turned on an alarm to make sure that I would not miss the time tonight. So that's next month's design. Hopefully you think it's kind of cute or pretty. It's gonna have purples and greens, there's red, there's a coral, several different shades of green, and it's kind of fall cheerful. How about that? Fall cheerful. I'm sure that's a technical term. Okay, so this is an example of slow stitching, and it is, I'm hoping you can kind of see it all. I think you can. So when I am slow stitching, I take and lay out things. This is all vintage fabric. So with the exception of this darker even weave that I use just as the base, because I decided I wanted a border around this. Everything else is old. So it's feed sacks and different pieces that I have collected over the past couple of years. This little green in the corner is one of my favorites. It was in a giant box of pre-cut squares and triangles and hexagons. So I love it and trying to incorporate triangles. If you know me, triangles stress me out. So don't tell anyone that I used to teach geometry too. I don't know. I typically like straight lines and symmetry, and I don't do symmetry with my slow stitching really, but I like to have it all nice and hopefully neat. So I take the fabric, and I have one time when I was as I laid things out, I did what is it called? A time lapse, and of how many different ways I moved the fabric around and tried to make it how I wanted it. And I sent it to my mom, and she was like, "That's really fast. Can you slow that down some?" And I was like, "No, because it's a time lapse, so no." And that's okay, but I'll do it differently next time, Mom. So I love to incorporate different little bits and pieces. This is the first time I took vintage. So obviously I started collecting stitching things, because what else are you going to do during a pandemic? So I took vintage embroidery transfers that were iron-on transfers and decided to try those along this fabric here. And that, I think, is okay. I'm not sure I love it, but it worked. So that was a little different to do. And then I just really like to layer things. This is a flower from a shirt that I think probably was a gift from my grandmother, I'm guessing, when I was a little bitty girl, probably 1.5 maybe. And so I found the shirt in Mom's sewing room and cut it all apart. So I've got several different little embroidery things that are from, what, 1978 probably. So I use that. And when I do the slow stitching, I glue everything down. And if you are interested in learning that process and everything that I do after the current stitch along, this one, after this, we will be doing a slow stitching project. And I came up with what I think is a very cool way to make it so that somebody at home can basically duplicate what I'm doing without necessarily having, I don't know, basically I would call it a map that I have pre-printed on the fabric. So I have measurements and the different words that I use a lot of times, especially on things with newer fabric. If I'm using current fabric or fabric from the past few years, I will cut different words out and stitch those down. So tomorrow night I will show you the project that will be a kit that goes on sale. It might be available tomorrow night, depending how much I accomplish tomorrow, but definitely available on Friday. So I'm excited about that because I think it's an attainable way for someone who hasn't slow stitched before or hasn't tried to figure out just laying random pieces out to follow and do the same thing. So Allison, I would say for the Morgan hoops, or the Morgan stand, which that's the stand here, I like both. I use so there's 2 different sizes that I have in the store that I use quite a bit, and that would be the 7-inch/9-inch, and then I think the one I have here is a 7-inch, 10-inch. And the great thing about the stand is just that it allows you to use both hands as you're stitching, which is really nice. And it helps you keep your tension tight. They sell, so the Morgan company makes hoops that aren't a part of stands as well, but if you have any interest in the stand, it makes the most sense to just buy one of the stands. So I would do either the 7-inch, 10-inch combo or the 7-inch, 9-inch. And the way it works, there are little legs that go under. So it all comes apart, and then you've got just a regular 7-inch hoop and 9 or 10-inch hoop. So you can use it without the stand, but you can also use it with the stand, which is nice. So I like that. And if you have other questions, be sure to let me know. I am going to go ahead and let you go. I need to pick up my kiddo. But thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central. And hope you have a great day. Thanks, everybody. Bye.